Affordability is a controversial topic because to one person, affordability means collecting magic cards, and to another person, affordability means paying rent. And today's video is more geared towards the first person because this is Magic the Gathering channel, and we're going to talk about the affordability of Magic the Gathering, which is a crazy thing to talk about because, like, that second group who has to worry about survival, you know, their Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where does play booster boxes, where does a Hobbit collector's booster box fit on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like, what are we talking about? But we're going to talk about it because I've seen some really interesting videos, some really interesting content recently about affordability in Magic. And I think this is coming up because the Hobbit pre-orders are pretty crazy. You know, we're looking at $200 for a play box. We're looking at $900. It's interesting. It keeps bouncing between $900 and $800 for a collector's booster box. And obviously that is not that affordable. In fact, let me share with you this article from the news source everybody knows and trusts, moneytalknews.com, who claims that the average American spends nearly $1,200 annually on their favorite hobbies. Yeah, this is when we all start making eyes at each other. We're like, do you pay $1,200 a year on your hobby? Ruh-roh, Raggy. I spend 8 times that. Yeah. Yeah, what's going on? Most expensive hobbies: music, cars, and travel. Yeah, you haven't met Magic the Gathering players. Yeah, so what's the point? Well, okay, so we're Magic players who spend lots of money on our hobby. Probably. I mean, if you're buying a play booster box a month, you're frankly a budget Magic player, but you're also spending more on your hobbies than the average American does, according to Money Talk News, which I'm a little skeptical of Money Talk News. I haven't dug into this, but I've seen other numbers about how much Americans spend on their hobbies a year. They're like $300 or something like that. I don't believe that. I believe $1,200. I believe that's possible. Because if you're going to buy like clubs and a golf membership, and golf is like a high-end hobby, right? I don't know. $1,200 sounds low to me, but sounds believable. Anyways, the point is, it's hard. It's hard to be addicted to Magic, having a habit with Magic the Gathering and afford it and make it a part of your life and make it fun. Now, granted, there's a lot of ways to make Magic affordable. Buying singles is a incredible tip to making Magic more affordable. I must say, I've been a little boo-hooey on the Hobbit, but the Hobbit singles, let me see if I can pull up any of these. I am going to buy the heck out of Hobbit single cards, but not yet. This is the pro tip, is that you don't look at these yet. You don't look at these prices. You don't look at these cards. You just don't even think about it. I mean, this is filtering for like most expensive to least expensive. So especially not this, but I will own multiple copies of, where is it? The Queen of Dale. Oh, it's kind of off the screen. I'm going to own multiple copies of the Queen of Dale. It is an incredible card. Let me click on this. This is so good. I'm so excited. It goes into multiple of my decks, which is exciting. But I'm not going to own it for $20. Even though $20 isn't the end of the world, this card is going to be like a $10 card. Unless it's a staple in standard or something like that, this card is going to be cheap, is my prediction. So anyways, there's inexpensive ways to enjoy Magic the Gathering, like buying singles. But I just want to take a step back for a second and give a little bit of perspective of the hobby. And these thoughts are going to be jumbled. It's going to be a little bit random. This is an entertainment channel, so bear with me. All right. We're going to talk about Shadows over Innistrad. Shadows over Innistrad, in my opinion, was an incredible set. And it's aged decently too. It's $250 for a booster box that used to be, $80, $90 on the shelf at your local LGS. I mean, not really, but like on TCG Player, it used to be cheap. It used to be very cheap. And there aren't particularly incredible cards in this set. These cards were played in standard. They used to have high highs and low lows and things like that. But it's kind of hilarious that the third most expensive card is a human cleric token, except I know why. It's because it goes with Westvale Abbey, and now I suddenly want this token. because I have a copy of Westvale Abbey that I play in decks. Anyways, so the cards are not expensive anymore, but they used to be staples in standard and maybe modern, things like that. But that's not why we're talking about Shadows over Innistrad. The reason we're talking about Shadows over Innistrad is because in 2016, this was an $80, $100. We're going to call it a $100 booster box. Or, right when it came out. Back in the day, whenever a set came out, it wasn't like The Hobbit today where it rises up in price real quick. Back in the day, it was cheap. It was relatively cheap to get boxes. And especially, before they ran out of print. They're available, they're cheap. So another note about Shadows over Innistrad, what's kind of interesting is that this was a detective set. Murders at Karlov Manor. This was a detective set where there were clue tokens were introduced in this set, but it wasn't like a hat set. It wasn't like this, everybody's a detective investigating this one murder that suddenly we all care about, even though Ravnica's this huge plane, and who cares if one person gets murdered, even if they were a leader of one of the guilds. I don't know. Anyway, I guess of course they'd care, but whatever. It's just Shadows over Innistrad, in my opinion, was brilliantly done lore-wise, flavor-wise. And what's interesting too is on this box, you can see this kind of feminine face on there, which you find out in the sequel to Shadows over Innistrad, back when they did 2 set blocks, that the cause for all of the shadow that was over Innistrad was Emrakul. Emrakul was the one causing the madness that was ruining Innistrad. And the corrupted Avacyn, and Sorin had to kill his own creation. And anyways, there's all this cool lore. And I just want to take a moment to express that I do believe that the lore has fallen, but man, Shadows over Innistrad and Eldritch Moon was sick lore. Really cool stuff. Jace did a telepathic game of chess with Emrakul, where Emrakul forfeited just because she was bored. And that was when she took over Tamio and cast a spell to imprison herself, into the moon. When Tamio had spells that could have destroyed the plane, Emrakul could have just wrecked the whole Gatewatch and everybody on Innistrad, but made the choice to imprison itself in the moon. Crazy. Okay, so lore was good back then. And booster boxes were $100. And if inflation happened, which it did, inflation happened, how much would a booster box cost today? $100? Adjusted for inflation, 10 years, it would cost $140. $140. How much do booster boxes cost today? Well, let's take a look. There is The Hobbit, $200. You know what this means? That adjusted for inflation, Magic the Gathering is more expensive than it was in 2016. Now, I started this video talking about affordability. Just because inflation has gotten the best of us doesn't necessarily ruin affordability, and it also doesn't make affordability, because as we'll see in other Magic sets, some Magic sets are cheaper than they were relatively in 2016. Thanks to inflation, in theory, your wage has been inflated. Oh, Nick, I'm not paid any more than I was in 2016. That sucks. But on average, at least in theory, economically, everyone's wages have been inflated, thanks in part to inflation. There's a delay, by the way. There's a delay. Inflation will raise the prices of goods before it raises the wages of labor. And that's what causes a lot of issues. In fact, it's one of the key causes of recessions. Comment below if you want to see a Magic-based video that talks about recessions and how they work. So anyways, inflation has happened. The Hobbit is more expensive. This is an example of Magic being more expensive now than it was in 2016. Now, assuming that we can equate these booster boxes one for one, that Shadows over Innistrad is like The Hobbit. Now, you can argue, as I'm sure Wizards of the Coast would argue, that The Hobbit is a universes beyond. This is a superior experience, and that's why you got to charge more for it. And some people would call BS, and other people would say, yeah, actually, I am willing to pay more money for The Hobbit than I would be willing to pay for a Shadows over Innistrad, in-universe set, because of it's The Hobbit, which, great. But let's look at other sets, like Marvel Superheroes, because only $115 to buy a Play booster box on TCG Player. And yes, there's shipping and, well, shipping's included. Yes, there's taxes, but there was taxes in 2016 as well. I don't think those taxes have been inflated, sales tax. Maybe it has. I don't know. But anyways, a Marvel Superheroes Play booster box is cheaper, which is funny because it's also Universes Beyond, right? but this is cheaper than Shadows over Innistrad. But Nick, Shadows over Innistrad booster boxes had 36 packs in them, and these ones only have 30 packs in them. Yes, so you could argue that you're getting less cardboard, less actual cards, so it's worse. You could also argue that Play boosters come with, on average, like whatever, 1.8 rares or something like that. And so you could argue that you're actually getting better value inside of Marvel Superheroes Play booster boxes. They're not the exact same product, but in general, it's interesting. I think it's just interesting talking about the affordability of Magic, that Marvel Superheroes Play booster boxes have gotten less expensive, as have, oh no, sorry, Secrets of Strixhaven are right on the dot. Look at that. And this is a good example where I would challenge you to compare and say, okay, Shadows over Innistrad, and I know nobody watching played with Shadows over Innistrad. If you're watching and you played with Shadows over Innistrad, comment down below, because you are rare, according to Wizards. There's like a life cycle of Magic players, and people churn and burn and whatever. Anyway, so yes, I know nobody played with Shadows over Innistrad, but I'm just going to say it now that Secrets of Strixhaven is a more fun set to open and is more fun and beneficial for your collection than Shadows over Innistrad. And I guess the case in point is looking at the cards from Shadows over Innistrad, where some of the most expensive cards are tokens. And there's just not a lot of value here. There's not a lot of, oh, that's cool, Tammy's journal, but they have different entries in them, different flavor text from Tammy's journal. Anyways, so yeah, just the cards in Shadows over Innistrad, they're not incredible for your commander deck or for, I don't know, playing 60 cards with your friends or whatever. But Secrets of Strixhaven, there's a lot of cool stuff, and you can open up mystical archives. And I'm just going to argue that this is a superior product over the cards that are in Shadows over Innistrad. And so for it to be $140 for a box, even though that is essentially like on the dot for inflation for the past 10 years, we're getting better stuff for the same amount of money, which is pretty cool. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, very cheap, right? $116 for a Play booster box. Lorne Eclipse, $120 for a Play booster box. These are cheaper than counterparts from 2016. So in 10 years, on the Play box side, Magic has gotten more affordable depending on the set. Like basically, as long as you're not diehard for The Hobbit, Magic has become more affordable over the past 10 years, which is not a perspective that I see very often on the internet. And I understand why. It's probably because of collector booster boxes, right? Is we see the expensive product, and the expensive product is expensive. And it makes us wonder if we've lost our way, if Magic is just like a game for the rich whales and it's not for the normies. But it's cool. I'm actually very inspired by this personally, that it is cheaper for me to enjoy. Even a box of Lorne Eclipsed, I think, is cooler than opening up a box of Shadows over Innistrad or even Eldritch Moon. I know those boxes are expensive today, but I would rather, for the fun value, I'd rather open up a box of Lorne Eclipse than I would of Eldritch Moon or Battle for Zendikar or Oath of the Gatewatcher, these 2015, 2016 sets. And that's just me. But I just, Magic is fun. Magic is fun these days. It was fun back then too, but the quality of products is good. And the prices for a lot of this stuff is relatively inexpensive. And so, am I really trying to make a point? No, not really. I'm just here to say that there's ways to cut these numbers to say that Magic is not actually more expensive than ever before. In some ways, it's less expensive than ever before. So it's pretty cool. Anyways, let me know your thoughts. And thank you to my generous patrons. Thank you for watching, for all my viewers, for watching and supporting. And I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.